All right, so here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I want to welcome everyone here today. I know we have a few people from India, Europe, East Coast, West Coast, US, and I'm super honored and humbled and grateful that you guys took time out of your busy day here to join us. I know I'm already on my second cup of coffee, so I can ensure that I deliver to you guys great content. You know, that's my hope. You took time, which is your most non-renewable valuable asset, to be here today. So I really want you to come away with at least one, if not two, aha moments. I like to call them BFOs, blinding flash of the obvious, and something that you can take forward into your life today. So if you don't already know me or know me very well, because I do have quite a few new friends here that I just attended a conference in India, made some new friends that I have never even talked to that are attending today. So I'm honored to have you guys. I'm a sales trainer. So you could call me a sales coach. I do a lot of professional speaking on the topic of basically living your best life through creating an unlimited income through your sales career. And what I have learned over the last 20 years of my own sales career is that there's three components to sales, and we're going to talk about those today. There's an inner game, mostly your mindset around sales and how you perceive the world and how you move through life. An outer game, that's how you create and generate your sales and how you specifically take action in your business. Now, everyone's different in this. I know that we all have different products and services, and there might even be someone on here today that isn't in sales. However, I would actually want to encourage you to realize we all were in sales. We were born salespeople. I love this picture of these two kids. They probably didn't know each other. They met each other in preschool, right? And they said, "Hey, I want to play with you. Do you want to play with me?" And they sold each other on that idea. And I do believe that, you know, sales is the highest paid profession, and it can help you design your dreams, your goals, the life that you were born to create. I believe we all have a purpose, that we were brought into this world and on this planet. And until you give your last breath, you're here to make a difference. And a lot of times it is through our vocation. A lot of times it is through our career. There's other ways, obviously. There's more to life than business, thank goodness. But somewhere along the way, we forgot to dream. We forgot to possibly, be our best version of ourselves. And I want to really help you kind of revisit that and revisit your dreams today. First, what I'd like you to do, and this is going to be a bit of a working session, so I hope you guys came dialed in with your caffeine or whatever your needs are and ready to roll up your sleeves and write. Hope you have a notebook, a journal. What I'd love for you to do, and I know at least one of you is driving, so you can think about this number. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 of selling or sales, with 10 meaning you go out there, you crush it every day, you never miss a day with prospecting, you're always having appointments, you're always closing the deal 100% of the time. And you don't have to share this number with me. I mean, if you wanted to, you could privately. The goal is, of course, is it possible to be a 10 all the time? No. I may have had a lot of top sales careers with different companies, but that's just not possible. However, I always encourage people to strive to be and do and have their best results when it comes to their sales career. And my goal today is, again, to share one or two things that can help you, raise that number. Let's say you thought you were a 5. Maybe we can help you start putting things into action today that'll get you to a 6, that'll increase your income, that'll increase your happiness. Because if you don't like sales, or if you're not excited about your career, obviously that's what you're doing, probably 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on your profession, hours a day. So the hope is that you're loving what you're doing and you're selling and performing at a high level. For those of you that don't know me, this is a little bit of my story, just really quickly, because I probably will write 4 or 5 books about my journey at some point. I was born and raised in the Midwest here in the US. I always loved sales. I was always at the top of any fundraiser at school or church or whatever. I was always the top person because I just loved going out there, talking to people, selling them whatever it was I was selling, and making a difference. That's the way I looked at it. For whatever reason, maybe it was because my dad was a farmer. He loved what he did. He never worked a day in his life, even though he worked 365 days out of the year. He was truly passionate about what he was doing to make a difference for himself in the world and our family. And when I got into sales right away, I was in real estate, and I was fortunate. I made multiple six figures. I had a sales team. I actually had 3 companies. So I had a couple different sales teams, all real estate related. And as you know, most of you probably remember the Great Recession of 2006, 2007, 2008. For me, it wasn't just one year. Like when someone says, oh yeah, the Great Recession of 2008, I'm like, no, that was 3 years for me. I ended up losing all of my companies, had to let go of all of my staff, employees, independent contractors, salespeople. I ended up losing everything, just to keep a really long story very short and succinct. And I had to start all over, which you guys might maybe know someone who's going through that right now. I was used to face-to-face, belly-to-belly selling. I didn't really do social media. In fact, Facebook was just born, I think it was 2007. All I knew was in-person meetings and networking and all that kind of stuff. And then the recession happened. I lost my car. My car was repossessed. So I was literally shelter in place in my home. Actually, it wasn't my home, of course, because I was essentially homeless, living, bouncing around, surfing couches and floors and futons for quite a while, over a year and a half. But all I could afford was my internet bill and my landline bill. I couldn't even afford a cell phone bill and a landline. I had to choose. So I went with a landline because it was cheaper back then. And ultimately, I had to learn how to sell all over again in that new space called virtual selling. And that was long before Zoom. All we had was Skype. And I was able to learn so much during those 3 years. I had coaches, mentors, and people who poured into me like I'm pouring into you, who gave me hope, who gave me a new set of tools, and equipped me to learn how to do webinars like this, equipped me to learn how to monetize the internet, how to use social media, even though back then it was truly brand new. And I've learned so much in the last 13 years, and I've dominated over and over again. And that's why I put together my own sales company and training company and speaking business as well. So this is just a picture of my family farm. This is a picture of me when I made my first sales call as a baby. It's kind of a joke. I hope that was funny. I try to be funny once in a while. And through the journey, I've loved sales, and I've had a lot of mentors and coaches, help me grow through that process. So the first thing I always tell salespeople, oops, sorry, I keep hitting the next button. If you don't talk about mindset and how important that is when it comes to business, and of course, especially when it comes to selling, you're not thinking right. Like you've got to come from within before you can go without. You've got to have inner peace and clarity and direction. We'll talk about that in a second. It's your mindset, and what you have going on is actually attracting or repelling. And I learned, even though at the time it was painful to lose everything in the Great Recession, and I was depressed, I had anxiety, I had ended up with a lot of health issues and trauma and all of that. It wasn't fun, but I learned a ton from it. I was forced to come from a place of gratitude because I didn't know if I would stay alive if I didn't come from any other place. And I know there's a lot of people hurting right now. There's a lot of people going through their own loss and grief and trauma because of this COVID-19 pandemic. So that's why I start with this, because if you don't have a good, as Zig Ziglar always say, check up from the neck up, it is definitely going to negatively impact your sales career. So I love this thought of the boomerang law of the universe. If you can choose a gratitude mindset every morning when you wake up, before you have your coffee, before you do your prayer, meditation, affirmations, even before you get out of bed, choose gratitude. I had yesterday morning, I woke up, it was Monday morning. I don't know why I had a couple of nightmares, and I tossed and turned a lot through the night. So when I woke up in the morning, I wasn't excited about getting up. I had to sell myself on not hitting snooze, right? That's another version of selling. I had to figure out, do I want to get up this morning? Or just stay in bed. And thankfully, because I had been trained and built these patterns and habits, I was able to, you say, what, you know what, today's a new day. Last night is over. I choose gratitude this morning because what I send out is going to come back to me. I also love this thought, and you can take or leave the law of attraction or The Secret or whatever. I watched that during the Great Recession, and it was big back then. Oprah did a series on Skype actually with Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now. I didn't have a TV, so I wasn't tuning into the news. I wasn't tuning into the media. I was pouring myself all sorts of good fuel and content, which is another tip of the day for you. And what she says is so true. The more thankful I became during that time, and even right now, the more my bounty increased. That's because for sure what you focus on expands. So if you focus on the good, more sales, more everything's going to come your way. Another thing that is really important, and then we are going to get into like the down and dirty of sales training. The other important thing that I learned and that I teach my clients is it's important to have a vision. It's important to write it out every day, and ultimately have a short-term and a long-term vision. Like, as short as, what do you want to create in this month of May? Have you written it down? Do you have projections for today, this week, this month? I find a lot of salespeople fall short because they don't know their numbers. They don't have projections, and then they don't reflect on their actuals. Now, a lot of you probably already do, so this isn't new to you. However, if you don't, I encourage you to start that today. Like, I have right next to me my clipboard, and on my clipboard, I write down my vision first thing, and I focus on it. I visualize it. I've listened to it on my phone. I've recorded my vision on my phone to stay connected. We have a prefrontal cortex in our brain. And when you have connection to your vision, maybe you have a vision board. If you don't, I encourage that as well. Some people can make vision boards like a mind map movie on their computer, and you can watch it. Sometimes that's more technical and easier than putting together a big old vision board and having it hang up on the wall like I do. But you want to fire those neurons, and to think is to create. And when you have that visual on top of maybe writing it or listening to it, if you're like me and you're kind of a geek, I do it all because I want to make sure I hear it, I see it, and I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my bones, and it keeps me moving forward. Like I had a vision to move back to Southern California. I planted that vision 3 years ago. And if you're living in the Midwest, moving to Southern California, that's a pretty daunting task with a family of 4. Definitely an increase in cost of living and a lot of uncertainty in the midst of all that. But because I wrote that 3-year vision out, and there was other stuff on there as well, I arrived here less than 3 years later. And it was actually pretty miraculous. If you ever want me to share with you the story, I will. And sure enough, because we took action, the universe is always watching. When you take action every day on your vision, which I did, I had a lot of conversations. I flew back and forth to California to dig my well before I was thirsty. Maybe you have a business goal this year that seems daunting, especially in light of the pandemic, right? So the goal is to keep moving forward and to have this vision always there in front of you. It's like your roadmap. If you don't have a roadmap when you get in your car, if you don't have your GPS, I guess we'll call it now, how do you get to where you're going? You can't. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to write out a vision for 2021, could be 2020. Maybe that's too far out. Maybe you just want to write it for the next 12 weeks. That's why I wrote that on there. I gave you options. I think a year is probably even more ideal. So a year from now, you would write down May 5th, 2021. And you always speak in present tense as if, amen, it is finished, right? It is done. It is in the can. It's completed. I have arrived. If you want to do 2023, 2025, 2030, where do you see yourself? And there's a purpose to this, okay? I believe your sales career and your passions in life, they all go together. And you can get to wherever you want to go leveraging the income that you produce through your sales. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. This is the teacher in me. I did teach a college course, so that's where this is coming from. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. The clock has started already. And thinking about your career, thinking about the income you want, where do you see yourself a year from now? How much income? Or you could say, I'm so happy and grateful I make $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, or I'm so happy and grateful I have started, an online program, a virtual program, and I have 30 clients. Or I'm so happy and grateful I weigh X amount of pounds. Because I also encourage lifestyle choices, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health. All of that is so important to me because I lost a lot of that during the Great Recession, and you can't sell at a high level if you don't have your health. So I'm going to give you 4 minutes to go. It is May 5th, by the way, happy Cinco de Mayo here in the US. 2021, 2023, 2025. And I am so happy and grateful that, boom. And obviously 5 minutes is not enough time. I did this exercise with my online coaching group yesterday, and I was reading their visions, and by the end of the day that they all sent me, and I was filled with tears of joy and happiness. So if you can start it now and refine it and email it to me, I would love to support you with that. Because when you share it with someone, maybe a family member, a friend, a colleague, a business partner, it gives it more power. And it also connects you with another human being, and that's a beautiful thing. You might inspire your kids to do this. You might inspire your spouse to do this. My husband and I, we wrote visions together. We had to be on the same page wanting to come back to California. If we wouldn't have been, it probably wouldn't have happened. So being connected to someone else and their vision helps make the world go round. Give it 2 minutes, 2 minutes. And then we're going to dive into the meat. All right, we got 1 minute left. It goes by fast. I am so happy and grateful that. Where do you see yourself? Maybe you've moved to a new home. Maybe you've paid off your debt. Maybe you did like me and you moved to a whole new state. Maybe you have a global business. This was part of my vision also 3 years ago, is to go online and be able to inspire the world. 30 seconds. All right, excellent. So again, that wasn't very long, but it was as long as I was wanting to have you guys. Once you have that vision set, now this is your fuel. You know, there's a saying, if you have a big enough why, which is another, I call your vision, your why, your purpose, what you are here to do and what you're here to create. If you have a big enough why, you can endure any how, and that's a beautiful thing. So now that we've cleared the clutter, you're focused on what you want to create. Now I want to take you through the sales process. The sales career that I've learned, I've been super fortunate. I've always had coaches and mentors and accountability and helping me really, really have a good, clean process. And I have found whenever I interview salespeople, I said, well, do you know how to generate a lead and then what to do next? How do you stay in touch with this person? Do you use a CRM? Do you have a protocol or a system that you duplicate over and over and over again? Or do you just kind of wake up, go out and talk to people, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks? And quite honestly, it's usually the latter of the two. And if you see, this is a process that I've learned from my mentors. I did not create this, but I use it to this day with my clients because I want to make sure that they make the most amount of money in the least amount of time and do it in a predictable way. How many of you here, by a show of hands, love to have a predictable income that comes in exactly as you said it would every month? Right? You know, my husband worked for Best Buy corporate headquarters in Minnesota, and they had spreadsheets. They had, every team was talking about sales no matter what. They had to make sure they had all their systems flowing so that they had a very profitable year. And they turned to virtual selling because of the World Wide Web. You know, Amazon has impacted everyone long before this pandemic, right? So if you have a lead generation process, an appointment setting process, how do you build trust and rapport with that prospect? Then how do you identify their needs? Then how do you share the benefits? Like I said, I could go 5 hours today, guys, but I'm not. I'm just gonna really focus on the lead generation component and the building of trust and rapport today. If you want more information and want more training, I'm gonna share with you at the end how you can do that with me. So we already talked about this, but I just want to make sure that you also have some affirmations about selling and sales and lead generation and prospecting, because lead generation is the first step on that mountain. Remember, first step is lead generation. If you don't have leads, you can't close them, right? And do you have enough leads? Do you know how many leads you need? Do you know how many leads you need to talk to every day and how many new leads you need to put in your pipeline? So if you're scared of talking to prospects or finding leads, you gotta clear that out. You gotta reprogram your mind and have some affirmations, revisit your why every morning before you start. I do 2 hours of lead generation every day. We'll talk a little bit about time management at the end, but I do 2 hours every day. And I always teach people an affirmation if they have call reluctance or they end up on Facebook to prospect and then 5 hours later they've gotten into political arguments instead, right? You got to reprogram, and you could say something like, I love finding leads every day or every week. That's one affirmation. Or, you know, selling is about leading people to action. If you don't take action, how are you going to find the sales and lead your prospects to close? an action. Napoleon Hill said that it best: to think is to create. So whatever you think about lead generation or prospecting is exactly where you are at. If you don't have enough leads, it's because your mindset is off kilter about it. This is something that I also invite you to think about, is if you have the fear of rejection, it's going to show up in your income. If you don't have enough leads, it's because you fear rejection. And you want to be able to actually go out and invite rejection, go for no. And again, I'll share slides with you. If anybody wants the slides, you can also shoot me I'll get you my phone number at the end. You can text me. You all know how to reach me because I invited all of you here. But to make sure you go out and get the rejection first, and know that it may bother you, but then keep going for no, and then it doesn't bother you. Keep going. You turn it to your advantage. If someone is rude or says no to you, you know, I have tips and tricks. I'm not going to train on that today, on how to turn that to your advantage. And even by the time you have rejection and you're having fun with it, you've made it. you know that you're fearless when it comes to prospecting and lead generation. And this is why this is important, and this is why a sales process is important, and a follow-up protocol is important with your lead generation, is because not most people buy on the first exposure. Depending on your product or service, there was a time when I was a top salesperson for a gourmet coffee company. Coffee is consumable. It's an addictive substance. Let's call it for what it is. And it was very, very consumable. So I had a lot, and still have, that stream of income going to this day. However, I also sold real estate. I had to follow up sometimes for 2 years before I secured that listing. You know, if you're a financial services person, a lot of times it takes a longer time to build that trust and rapport for them to give you their money, right? So if 80% of the sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact, how many sales are you leaving on the table? How much money are you missing out on because you didn't follow up 5 or more times? So what are your ideas? You can do this. I'm not going to give like a formal 2-minute break, but how do you lead generate? And remember, we're going to go for probably another 10 minutes here. Okay. And then I'll open it up for Q&A, just so you know. Where do you find your leads? I always recommend having 2 or 3 spots. Don't try to be everywhere all at once or be everything for everyone. I've focused on LinkedIn and Facebook for my online. Those are my 2 sweet spots. I have a YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff, but I do that for exposure and creating an audience. That's different. Where do you go to find your leads? I have, of course, BNI. There's a lot of you here from BNI, so we have that. Maybe we do meetup groups. You don't want to be a professional networker. A professional networker attends every meeting and doesn't get anywhere, doesn't gain the leads, doesn't set a goal for how many leads they're going to find at a networking event and then follow up with them. A lot of people have a business card collection somewhere on their desk and they don't know how to follow up with them. Part of the outer game strategy is, once you have the lead, you meet someone online, or once we get back to it being in person, maybe I have a database of probably about 7,000 people. So I've met a lot of people in my time, and I had to start by building trust and rapport. I had to have a follow-up plan. So if you have those lead generation spots, great. If you know how you build trust and rapport, fantastic. And if you know how you're going to follow up and put them in your CRM, that you got to have that plan. And if you don't, I can help you with this as well. This is my #1 way to build trust and rapport. And first and foremost, right now, this is super important. This has always been important because I've been using this system for 20 years and it's made me a lot of money, like multiple 6 figures over the last 20 years. I learned this in real estate when I was 22. So I was so fortunate to have a coach and a mentor teach me this process. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's really important to use this right now, especially because a lot of people are going through something. A lot of people have either lost a loved one, whether it's to COVID, or I have had 2 family members die this year already, very suddenly, very unexpectedly, non-COVID, and I've been going through my own grief process. There's people who've lost jobs. There's people whose income has been cut in half, or maybe their spouse has lost a job, or they have kids at home and now they're forced to homeschool and work from home, and they're pulling their hair out, right? So you got to remember, people, you got to meet people where they're at. You got to listen instead of just reaching out to them and selling. I still have it happen in BNI. I have it happen on Facebook and LinkedIn where people are just hitting me over the head. First message is, here, buy my stuff, or here, you know, I want to sell to you. And that will get you nowhere fast. So now more than ever, slow down, meet people where they're at, listen, and form the relationship. So that acronym, I'm going to give that to you. A lot of you probably already have heard of this. The F stands for family. How is your family? That's important right now because family is important. And if someone's going through a job loss, if someone's going through, you know, dealing with kids at home, it's important. So checking in, meeting them where they're at before you talk about your business. This is all about them. The O stands for occupation. How has your work been impacted by this? Are your sales up, sales down? Did you lose your job? Is there anything I can do to help? Always coming with an open heart and an open hand and an open ear and mind to listen and help. R is recreation. You know, we just finally opened up the beaches here in California. We've been able to go hiking. We haven't really been able, I've traveled for a death in the family. I haven't traveled for fun. You know, so people, that's a sore subject right now, and just kind of listening and saying, hey, you know what? Let's talk about that trip you're going to take when you can, or what can you do right now? Do you need an in-home personal trainer, like online trainer? Can I refer you one? If you're listening to them and you're helping and supporting them with their permission, that goes a long way. That tells them a lot about you, caring more about them than the sale. And then of course the M is, what is their mission in life? Could also be D for dream. What is their dream? Forward or form is interchangeable, whichever one you like. I like form the relationship. It makes more sense. But once you've done all that, you've built trust and rapport. You've connected. You've made it about them and not just pushed yourself into that space. And that's also why you got to have a CRM. I'm not going to do CRM training, but you got to remember, you know, I always ask permission. Can I take notes on, you know, what you're saying? Because what you say matters to me, and I want to know how I can help. And it is also, depending on what you're selling, it's also going to tell you about where they're at in the potential buying process. So set a goal every day to have authentic conversations. This is an authentic conversation. This is sales 101, guys. And being able to connect with people online, but then getting them offline as fast as possible. Schedule a phone call. Schedule a LinkedIn or a Google Hangout. Thanks, Jeff. That was awesome. Private message. That was cute. But set a goal. How many people can you have authentic conversations with offline every day? I set a goal of 5. Sometimes I do 2. Sometimes I do 10. It just depends on my day. Let's see here. The massive follow-up reminder, and like I said, I hope I'm not overwhelming you guys. I'm giving you a lot of nuggets today. The fortune is always in the follow-up. Remember I said earlier, it takes 5 to 12 touches to close a sale. Again, depending on your sales process. I've actually perfected it where it only takes 4 to 8, no matter what I'm selling. You got to know your conversions. You got to know how many times do I got to follow up with Mrs. Jones to secure her business. And you got to remember your why and your vision to keep going, right? Because we as salespeople, we get a lot of rejection. Remember, that's why I said go out and look for it. I have a gal who she'd actually put paper or paper clips on her desk. She would put 8, and she knew she couldn't stop making her phone calls until she got 7 no's and then a yes, or maybe it happened sooner, but she would push away the paperclip on every no, and she gamified it. She had fun with it. And remember, people are watching you. I've had so many people say, Lois, your follow-up is amazing. Thank you so much for your patience with me. I'm ready now. I wasn't ready back then, but you're so kind. And you're teaching people how to treat you, and how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're flaky with your follow-up, they're going to think you're flaky with your business and your service, right? And we're all human. I'm not perfect. I'm just letting you know people are watching, and you're training them through your follow-up process. So this is my follow-up process. And this is really my last thing for the day. In the sales mountain, you have the lead. You set the appointment to build the trust and rapport. You formed the relationship, and then what? So this is an example. My mindset and what I teach my clients is, no matter what, even if they don't buy from you today, within 4 to 8 touches, you want them to fall in love with you. There's a video on YouTube, Tony Robbins, how to get them to fall in love with you. Norman Vincent Peale, how to win friends and influence people. You guys are creating your own sphere of influence as you prospect. You're an influencer, whether you identify with that or not. You make a difference in other people's lives. And by other people knowing that you care, they can become your referral partner. They can become your raving fan, not raging, raving fan. So no matter what, even all of you on here, I want you to be in my sphere of influence forever. I'm kind of greedy. I love people, and I want you to know that I'm always here for you. So if you can see this on the screen, and again, if you want the recording, I'll send you the recording on this. If you want further assistance, I can help you create your own follow-up campaign. But this is duplicatable. This is something that I tweaked and have worked through for 20 years, you guys. This is how I stay in front of people. If I feel like there's a relationship potential, I don't follow up with everyone, guys. That's not human. That's not possible. I have followers on Facebook I've never met, face to face, and that's fine. Maybe someday. But you got to have a way to follow up and get them to say yes. And that yes is either yes to your sale, whatever you're selling. Yes to, I learned this in real estate, and I still apply it to this day. I'll say this to you, in real estate, I said, you know what, even if you never sell or list your home with me, can I be your real estate expert? Just like Andy and Red, and I love Shawshank Redemption, my second favorite movie of all time. Red was known as the man who could get you things. I always want to be that person that as a sales expert. Do you have that conversation with people that you talk to? Do you earn their trust over 4 to 8 touches and become their guy or gal that does excellent things with whatever it is that you do? So I would encourage you, this is normally a 10-minute exercise, but I want to honor your time, is create your own 8x8 follow-up process. And this goes right in alignment with what I shared with you guys earlier, in that we have a process where you get 5 to 12 touches and most people close the deal. 80% of sales happen at that time. So I've had most of my sales happen within 4 to 8 weeks of meeting someone, a total stranger, turning them into a friend, turning them into a customer, using this exact same thing. So feel free to do this on your own time. Send it to me if you want me to review it. Just, be patient with me. And of course, you can always be a part of my online coaching program if you want to take that to a whole another level. But this is part of your follow-up process. This is part of your sales mountain. And I guarantee you, if you don't have something like this, you're leaving six figures on the table over either a year or a couple years or maybe 3 years. So I want you to set a goal. This is your homework. Set a goal of how many leads you want to generate. Set a goal of how you're gonna, whether it's a power hour every day. I do 2 hours. I love to make sure I am always bringing new energy into my pipeline, and I'm following up on. I don't want that pipeline to become stagnant. Stagnant is not good. Pipeline is meant to be flowing. If you've ever read the book, The Parable of the Pipeline, that's a referral for you today, The Parable of the Pipeline. The author's name is escaping me. I know I have it over on my shelf. But make sure you have scheduled some time also to work on your follow-up protocol. I'm going to skip over that. This is really quickly as I close. I do want to be able to, as you can imagine, I'm the sales lady, so I would be a bad sales trainer if I didn't give you an example of how I sell virtually. So I'm going to share with you guys an irresistible offer to continue in the conversation with me, if you so choose. No pressure at all. My hope is you got so much value today that you're going to take away 1 or 2 things that impact your sales career and your life. This is Kathy, one of my happy clients. I helped her. She's a sales manager for Heartland Payment Systems. So she recruits salespeople and she leads them, and she has her own sales process that she goes through. So she's like a great referral for me. Love her. And she's so much more productive. And she worked with me. We started before the pandemic. She's still in my online coaching program. And she started with me one-on-one for a 12-week program, and she's rocking it. Her sales team is crushing it right now. She's recruiting. She's recruited a lot of people that are solid and onboarded with a lot of the tools that I've given her. And she's having massive success instead of the opposite, which with this pandemic, her career could have been looking differently. So I'm gonna go right here. If you can still see my screen, this is my limited time thank you pandemic offer. Thank you for being here today. If you have any interest, you can ask questions about this as well. But I've cut my prices so that I could encourage people to not allow price to be the thing that stands in their way. That's another training on objection handling. We didn't get to that part of the sales mountain process today. But when I was going through the Great Recession and I was broke as a joke, I'd had my bank accounts cleaned out, and I had mentors and trainers and coaches that came around and loved me and helped me grow to the next level and to get out of that pit of self-pity and fear and anxiety that I was in. And so I'm bringing that and paying that forward today. So I have a $25 a month, so that's 25 American, to help people create better results moving through this pandemic instead of feeling stuck. And so they get 1 free coaching session, which is valued at $250. And then, of course, if someone wants to go longer, which is known as my lifetime membership, it's $197 for lifetime online coaching membership, which you can also include a business partner, a spouse, a family member. I just have to approve who they are, but they can come in for free. So you can even share in the cost with that. And that's for life, as long as I'm alive and breathing and kicking, and I plan on never retiring because I love what I do, just like my dad as a farmer. Or you can just do $25 for 1 month and cancel. And of course, I'm giving a money back guarantee if anybody's not satisfied. In the online program, I'm going to teach you how to prospect, how to book appointments, how to deliver sales presentations from home or your office, I guess, sell virtually, how to use Zoom, Skype if you prefer, how to use social media and video to build your brand and your audience, because that's another lead generation and traction magnet, which I've really found to be a lot of fun over the last years. How to publish content if you want to build a blog or if you want to publish a book. I've done all of that. If you want a YouTube channel, I've done all of that. And of course, I didn't even tell you, I'm a time management freak. I have a certification called the 12-week year, and I love helping people set boundaries. I love helping people figure out how to get the most done in the least amount of time without compromising their health along the way, because a lot of salespeople tend to not know how to turn it off, and that's not good for your health. Trust me, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. So if you're interested, please just go ahead and text me at my phone number or shoot me a message on LinkedIn. It's all delivered through a private Facebook group. Every week I do live training, just like this, with a Q&A at the end. Unlimited email, or I suppose LinkedIn or Facebook Messenger. Of course, don't forget about the one-on-one game planning session. And then I'm going to teach you how to build repurposed content, whether it's a blog, a YouTube channel, all of that, so you can have that for the rest of your life. And for global people, I'm actually going to have a private WhatsApp group as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I shared today? And I appreciate you guys hanging out for so long. I went longer, like I said, I could probably be here for 10 hours and not be done. I actually taught a college course. I have an online program that's 33 hours long, and it barely scratched the surface. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
I do. You mentioned about following up on prospects, and you said that you don't follow up on every prospect. How do you decide which ones to follow up on and which ones not?
It's a great question. Some of that is more of what I meant. If I just drop the ball, if I don't get them into my CRM, if I lost their business card, if I did a poor job of the initial follow-up and building trust and rapport, and I just intuitively don't feel like there's a connection or there's a reason to connect. So I was just being mostly transparent there in that process. However, I will tell you, I learned a process called sorting and sifting my database. And so in my CRM, I have, in real estate, I called it the ABCD. And I'd, over time, get as many of them to A's as possible. And A is someone who is that raving fan. And A is someone who's gone through my 8x8 process, and they're saying, yes, Lois, you're my real estate lady of choice, or now you're my sales trainer of choice. I'll refer anybody to you because I really believe in you and what you're doing. They actually give referrals. A B is someone who's maybe given me a referral, someone I'll talk to once a quarter, and someone who I think could become an A. I just haven't gotten them there yet. A C is someone who's in my pipeline. I followed up with them. I haven't always gotten a response. Maybe I haven't even gotten them to a meeting or a webinar or whatever. And then a D is someone that, pardon my French, is just a jackass, and I'm just going to delete them because I don't like their attitude. You know, a D is a delete. So that's kind of the process that I go through. If that was helpful.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Melanie. I will share that slide again.
That was really helpful on your follow-up strategy. I think that's one of the challenges, and I'm really grateful to have been a long-term BNIer. It's really interesting in this world to have left BNI 2 months ago and kind of feel like it's opening up my universe so that I can then return to BNI at a later date. But I think it's kind of, thank you so much. I think it's kind of interesting as we're taking steps. Leaving allowed me to fine tune and improve my follow-up in a way that I don't think I had the time before, which was kind of interesting. I think I've made more time to kind of expand the system and the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. I never really, looked at it that way before, but it seems like, as you would say, it's more, being in a space to prepare to go global. Mm-hmm. I was regional before. I had the global connections, but I never looked at the way to strengthen it. So this is really, really valuable. Thank you.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah, I can echo that. I kind of need the lockdown to go on for another couple of months so that I can do all the things that I've been trying to do for years and not actually managing to do.
Well, and I would encourage you, I guess this is my new normal. Like I may or may not meet with people in person. I mean, I actually started that when I moved to Southern California because I didn't want to drive in Southern California traffic. I just didn't, right? So I've been doing this, I've been selling virtually for 13 years, but I just really hunkered down and I got so much more done. And now I absolutely still love face-to-face availability and getting connected, but you can set your boundaries and figure out what works for you. Anybody else have any questions?
If nobody wants to jump in, I just have another comment actually, which I mentioned to you when we spoke this week. I'm actually learning a little bit more about phraseology. The way you put things is really good, and I'm learning how to change the way I say things because it makes the same thing sounds entirely different. You know, you talked about setting the boundaries of doing online meetings. I love online meetings. I've been coaching online for a long time, but I know a lot of people hate it. And sometimes they hate it not from the experience, but the thought of. But to put it in a way that, hey, I'm saving you time, I'm saving you the traffic, you know, that's much better than, hey, we're doing this for me.
Yes, you're sharing the benefits.
Yeah.
That right there is the sales pitch, right? That's why my kids get the popsicles, right? Because if they're selling me on, if I don't give them the popsicles, they're not going to stop talking about the popsicles.
Cool.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Any other feedback? I'm always open to feedback. And then, of course, I definitely invite you to let me know if you want the slides. I'm happy to send them to you. And then if someone wants the recording, I'm actually going to stop the recording right now.